The government of the Republic of Niger brings to the knowledge of national and international opinion that, on March 12, 13 and 14, 2024, its representatives, under the authority of His Excellency, Mr. Ali Mohammed Laminzan, Prime Minister, had a series of working meetings with an American delegation composed of the Deputy Assistant Secretary of State for African Affairs, Head of Mission, Ms. Malifi, of Dr. Celeste Wallander, Under Secretary of Defense for International Security Affairs, General Michael Langley, Commander-in-Chief of AFRICOM, and Ms. Kathleen Fitzgibbon, Ambassador of the United States to Niger. In form, the arrival of the American delegation did not respect diplomatic practices. In fact, it was in unilateral ways, through verbal notes, that the American government informed the Nigerian government of the date of arrival and the composition of its delegation, as well as the Nigerian authorities met, without any details as to the purpose of his visit. It's therefore out of courtesy, and following our millionaire traditions of welcome and hospitality, that government received the American delegation. In substance, the exchanges between the two delegations focus mainly on the ongoing military transition in Niger, cooperation between the two countries, in particular military cooperation and the fight against terrorism, the political orientations and perspectives of Niger, in their aspects relating to the choice of partners, on the diplomatic, military, and strategic level, it being understood that, in the American approach, all these three questions are deeply linked. On the current transition and the return as soon as possible to a constitutional and democratic order, the government of Niger reaffirmed its firm desire to organize, as soon as possible, the return to normal constitutional life. This is a solemn commitment, with full responsibility, of the President of the National Council for the Protection of the Homeland, Head of State, as expressed in his address to the nation on August 19, 2023. On the choice of diplomatic, strategic, and military partners, the government of Niger regrets the will of the American delegation to deny the sovereign people of Niger the right to choose their partners and the types of partnerships capable of helping it to truly fight against terrorists. Even though the United States of America has decided unilaterally to suspend all cooperation between our two countries. Therefore, the government of Niger strongly denounces the condescending attitude accompanied by the threat of reprisals from the head of the American delegation towards the government and people of Niger. This attitude is likely to undermine the quality of our centuries-old relationships and undermine confidence between our two governments, already damaged by events of August 19, 2023. Regarding the specific cases of the Russian Federation and the Islamic Republic of Iran, two countries with which Niger maintains diplomatic relations for many decades, and which particularly focus the interest of the United States of America, the government would like to bring to the attention of the people of Niger and of all the peoples of the international community that it has never signed a secret agreement with its partner countries. All agreements signed by Niger since the advent of the National Council for the Safeguarding of the Homeland respect international law and transparency rules. This is why the government of Niger rejects the false allegations from the head of the American delegation, consisting of maintaining that he signed a secret agreement on uranium with the Islamic Republic of Iran. This cynical approach, usually used to discredit, demonize, and justify their threat against states, recalls the example of the Second Iraq War. Indeed, the Nigerians and the entire international community still remember false evidence brandished by the U.S. Secretary of State before the Security Council to justify American aggression against Iraq, and that in this affair, the government of President Tanja had been falsely accused of having supplied uranium to the Baghdad authorities, even though it was public knowledge that the exploitation of Nigerian uranium is totally controlled by France. As for the Russian Federation, this is a partner with whom Niger deals on a state-to-state basis, in accordance with military cooperation agreements signed with the previous government, to acquire the necessary military equipment in its fight against terrorism, which made thousands of innocent Nigerian victims under the indifferent eye of a large part of the international community. Finally, Niger reaffirms its solemn commitment to cooperate with transparency and respect for its sovereignty with all countries and people loving peace and justice in accordance with the rules of international law on cooperation between the two countries, in particular military cooperation and the fight against terrorists. It should be remembered, the American presence on the territory of the Republic of Niger is illegal and violates all constitutional rules and democratic rules which would like the sovereign people, particularly through its elected representatives, be consulted for the installation of a foreign army on the national territory. So, it is by simple verbal note, number 174 of the CIG 2012, that the Americans signed, unilaterally imposed on Niger, an agreement relating to the status of United States military and civilian employees of the U.S. Department of Defense on the territory of the Republic of Niger. This agreement is not only profoundly unjust in its essence, but also does not meet the aspirations and interests of the Nigerian people for the following objective reasons. First, it forces Niger to pay bills related to taxes on American military aircraft, which the latter must normally pay, and they cost billions of CFA francs to the Nigerian taxpayer. Then, the competent Nigerian authorities have no information on military activities carried out from American bases in Niger, and ignore even the civilian and military personnel, as well as the American equipment deployed on Nigerian soil. Finally, the American Army has no obligation, according to the agreement, to accede to Nigerian requests for support against terrorist groups who assassinate our valiant defense and security forces and massacre our hardworking populations. Also, since July 26, 2023, and the advent of National Council for the Safeguarding of the Fatherland, the American government unilaterally and abruptly decided to suspend its military cooperation in violation of the agreement imposed on the people of Niger by invoking Article 71008 of the Consolidated Appropriation Act, without going to the end of his logic, which would require him to withdraw his soldiers from Niger territory. Furthermore, for several weeks, the Nigerian government has observed illegal overflight activities of its territory by American aircraft, and who are likely to question the sincerity of their partnerships and the relevance, maintaining the military cooperation agreement imposed by our verbal note. In view of the above, the government of Niger, taking into account the aspiration and interests of its people, decide with full responsibility to denounce with immediate effect the agreement relating to the status of military personnel and civilian employees of the United States Department of Defense in the territory of the Republic of Niger. A diplomatic correspondence will be sent to the American side to this effect, made in Niamey on March 16, 2024.